It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So it's,
Craig Price is the man.
I knew it. Craig, shut up.
it's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, Jeffrey Hayzlett joins me to talk about his new book, Think Big, Act Bigger. Welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you listening. Traditionally, the day after Labor Day is an off day for the podcast, but when my guest, Jeffrey Hayzlett, told me his book was coming out today, the 8th of September, well, time off be damned. Let's get this thing out there and get people reading it. I got to meet Jeffrey at the National Speakers Association convention this past July, where we were kind of joined at the hip as we co-hosted an informal gathering of NSA podcasters. Somehow I have a weird, odd reputation I don't know how I've gotten as a podcasting person among the speaker set. And of course, Jeffrey, he is neck deep in podcast for business. He knows how to get sponsors. He leverages his podcast format for maximum exposure. And he was a big part of the launch of CBS's new Play.it podcast network. He was also inducted into the Speakers Hall of Fame at convention. And so thinking big is what he's good at. And that is why his new book is Think Big, Act Bigger, The Rewards of Being Relentless, which is available, as I said, today. I think people talk big, but they don't really act big, or at least not big enough to really make change, and then they get disappointed and they quit. And change isn't easy to do, especially if you're actively working to make changes and you don't see results. It's not hard to settle and to possibly even quit. And for the record, some things you should quit, so don't feel horrible that you're quitting sometimes. Quitting isn't always a bad thing, but often we are just not taking big enough steps, and we're not taking big enough ideas to the market. So let's talk big and think big and then act bigger with Jeffrey Hayzlett. So now that you're a big CPAE Hall of Fame speaker, life must be completely different for you. Your doorman says is got a big smile all the time, and they send you gifts. It's all sunshine and chocolates for you, right?
Well, and don't forget the secret handshake that Colin Powell and Ronald Reagan and Zig Ziglar and all the folks that are in this club have, both those that are alive and those that have passed before us. That's just special. Actually, I got to tell you, though, Craig, my doorman does treat me with better respect because he follows me, as all the doormen in our building follow my daughter, follow me, follow my wife. They're all friends on Facebook. So they saw the things on, kind of lay out over the weekend when I was in Washington, D.C. And then the second I walked in, they said, congratulations. How cool is that?
Oh, that's great, because I used to live in New York. I used to live on 52nd and 2nd. And so the doorman next door, I didn't have a doorman in my building. We're in a different tax bracket. But they're real. If you're there, they're some of the nicest guys that you're ever going to meet if you're in that building.
Yeah, well, and they run everything for you, so they know what's going on. They know when my wife's around, they know when I'm around, they know everything about you, and of course the guy that's taking care of the laundry in the building, and all the things that you need in a big city like that. They just take care of it, and you don't have to worry about things because they get it done, and that's what I love. I love that.
So not being a Hall of Fame speaker, and they try to keep everything super secret. How far in advance did you find out? Because obviously they tell you ahead of time so you can bring family.
Yeah, I think it was in February. Somewhere around that time frame is when they called me and informed me and said, can you be there? And of course I said, I'll drop everything to be there. And what an honor it is to be included in the Speaker Hall of Fame. So yeah, and if you remember the story, when I got called, I actually got called in a cab, and I kept hanging up on the person by accident because I was going through the Midtown Tunnel. And as I got out, I said, hey, I'll call you right back, or call me in 2 minutes. I'll be out of the tunnel. And the person called me, and I told the cab driver to pull over real quick, and he did. And I just paid and threw the money through the window, got out, and little did I know I was standing in front of the Marble Church on Fifth Avenue. And the significance of that is that when I hung up from them telling me that I was in the Speakers Hall of Fame, I turned around and I was standing under the statue of Norman Vincent Peale. And Norman Vincent Peale is also an inductee of the Speakers Hall of Fame, and one of the greatest speakers in the world, as far as I'm concerned. And I just couldn't get over the I don't know, fate, irony, the luck of all of that. But to me, it was a real sign.
So how do you keep that secret, especially since you were on that Monday, you were busy that morning. You were doing stuff. You were like Obama the night they got bin Laden. He's at the, associates dinner making jokes, and everybody, and he knows what's going on, but nobody else does. So how do you kind of keep that secret?
Well, you just do. They ask you to do it, so you don't tell anybody. So there was, the only other person I told was some of the committee members had started coming up to me over the week, over the weekend, saying, "Hey, congratulations," and I just said, "Oh, thank you," just assuming it was for anything, because I wasn't going to let on. Although they knew and I knew, so I knew they wouldn't say anything, and we didn't talk about it publicly other than they just whispered. 2 or 3 of them walked to me and just said, "Hey, congratulations." So you just keep your mouth shut, because that's what they ask you to do. And so I kept my mouth shut, and then people kept saying, "Well, geez, Jeff, are you getting it? Are you getting it?" Because they hadn't seen me at a convention in many, many years. Of course, that Monday I was on the main stage doing hosting Money. So that helped with the cover. With that, if I hadn't had that, it would have been a more difficult time to keep it secret.
Yeah, because I've noticed that kind of is a hint. It's not always a guarantee, but if you see someone you haven't seen in a while and they're on the main stage, it seemed to be a little bit of a pattern. So it was kind of a hint, but then again, maybe not. You got a lot of things going on.
You never know.
Yeah,
you never know. So, but what a great honor. It was still a great honor, no matter what. Keeping it secret. I do like the fact that they do keep it secret, because I think that does add to some of the hype of the night. It's a beautiful banquet, great people. A great honor to be able to be there and to watch everybody that got it that night. The inductee class that we had was just fantastic.
Well, I bring it up because my guest today is Jeffrey Hayzlett. He's got a brand new book out today called Think Big, Act Bigger, The Rewards of Being Relentless. I bring this up because is this something that you thought you would try to achieve? Is this one of your big thinks that you tried to get? Was I want to be good enough to be someday be a Hall of Famer?
Well, I think that's always something that is great to have. I don't ever think like that. My way I think is just to be the best that you possibly can. If you get the recognition, isn't that great? And if you don't, that doesn't mean you're any less than that, because you're still doing a great job. So that's the way I look at it. I'm from South Dakota, and we just get our stuff done. And we really, truly believe that. South Dakota is probably one of the greatest states in the nation. It's got the most gold. It's got the most missiles, the most military might in the world. It's got the most shoreline because of our rivers. It's got the most corn, the most buffalo. I mean, I go on and on and on. But yet nobody knows South Dakota. So we just get our stuff done. And I think that's the credit card capital of the world. More money flows through South Dakota than New York City, by the way. So, those are the kind of things that we just do our stuff. And my belief is if you do a good job, you're good at what you do, and you hone your craft, you're recognized. Now, I will tell you, Craig, this is my 4th Hall of Fame, and I'm honored by each one. I've been in the Business Marketing Hall of Fame, the Sales Hall of Fame, the Direct Marketing Hall of Fame, and then, of course, the Speakers Hall of Fame. So, I've been honored by each one of those, and to be recognized and be included, with, really some greats, like the Sales Hall of Fame, by Sales and Marketing Executives International. It's got Benny Hanna, it's got James Cash Penney, it's got Bill Watson, the founder of IBM. Zig Ziglar was in that one as well. Brian Tracy's in that one as well. Those are some great places to be included, and I can do the same thing in the Business Marketing Hall of Fame, where the founder of Ad Age, the founder of Cranes Communication, is a member, as well as many others. And so there's so many good things to be recognized for. It's an honor, but not something you go and say I've done. I think some people do, but I don't look at it that way. I look at just do your job, and people will notice.
Well, you're a guy who thinks big almost always. That's, every time I talk to you, and we've only met each other once. I got to meet you in person at NSA, and like I said, I'll be honest with you, I kind of knew who you were beforehand, but I didn't really. So it wasn't like I was like, oh my God, it's Jeffrey Hayzlett. It was more like, hey, I've seen this guy around. He seems like a nice guy. And then we talked, and you're very giving and warm and nice, especially for a CEO.
Well, which is why a lot of people wouldn't suspect that. But I have this reputation for being kind of a hard ass. So it's kind of, it's always fun people get to know,
Well, that's exactly right. Because when you think CEO, celebrity CEO especially, it seems like the only time you see a celebrity CEO is if they're maniacal, egomaniac narcissist. So the fact that you seem like you have some of those qualities in your back pocket if you need them, but you seem like a really nice guy and you're very open and generous. So when you think big, it's going to be different than maybe how I think big. So big is a subjective term. What is your definition of thinking big, and how do you relate that in your goal setting?
I don't know if you've ever gone through ropes training, the courses
sure, yeah.
where they teach you and they get you up on a rope. So, but I've watched people who have had to step up and do the trust fall, even on the floor, do a trust fall where they had to fall into their teammate's arm. They had to lean backwards and fall down and let people trust them. And I've watched people cry just standing on the floor. I've watched people cry when you get them 4 feet off the ground. I've watched them cry when you put them up in a tree. But your point there is it's all subjective in terms of what's big for you. And it's about adding the zeros. It's about going bigger than what you were doing before. And for each of us, it's a different journey. Like you said to me, you're thinking bigger than you were. Well, that doesn't mean it's any less than that. It's just I've been doing some things where I was working in companies where my budgets were billions of dollars. Now, prior to that, they were hundreds of millions of dollars. And prior to that, there were millions of dollars. Prior to that, there was tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's all relative, and it's just about adding the zeros or adding the intensity to the thinking big or the next level of thinking big. And it's always, every time I've ever done something like that, where I've gone and done something, I look around and go, well, that wasn't that tough, or, let's go do it again and let's just do it bigger. And that's the part I like, and that's what I'm trying to encourage with people with this book that's out today, is to think big, act bigger, because it's not the lucky who win, it's the relentless, and it's to be relentless is the most important thing for you to do.
Well, I think that one of the best messages you have in the book is there is no one way. And in fact, your book is not a how-to, it's more of a, hey, let's all just try to do things bigger and better. I did it my way. It may work for you, it may not, but whatever your way is, try to expand on it. So I think reading the book, it seems like you feel, and I kind of see this as well, people aren't thinking big enough. And why don't people think big enough?
Well, because if everybody sits around, the whole thing's stacked against everybody for the most part, because they say, we tried that once before. There's negativity everywhere, and they give you all these excuses why you can't do it. And I'm saying that's all bullshit. Move past that stuff. And like you said, the book isn't a how-to. The book is a get off your ass and get it done, okay? And by the way, I've been sitting in those rooms too. I did this not more than a month ago or 2 months ago when I was sitting in Washington, D.C., and I had a breakthrough in one of the meetings. And I'm listening to these two other speakers whine about some problems they were having. And I'm going, well, geez, take their thing out and put my other issue that I've got in front of me. I'm doing the same thing. Well, why don't I cut that out? And I actually told them, I said, you know what? A year from now, you're still going to be here. A year from now, tell me those same problems, and you can change it. And that's when it clicked in my head. You know what? A year from now, I'm going to be having the same problem I've got over here. I need to stop that. And so I resolved right then and there, I'm not going to do that anymore. And so that's the things you have to do, and we're all subject to it. It's just a matter of getting off your butt and deciding that you're going to make a change. That the pain is more than the gain, and so I want the gain more than I want the pain, and so that's what you've got to do.
One of the things that you really point out about is because you're talking about people call you stubborn. I guess the word that you use in the book is pig-headed, which is a not nice way of saying stubborn.
Yeah.
It's about being authentic to yourself, because I think a lot of people, they want to be bold, but they don't think they should be bold. They don't think they should speak up in certain areas, or they shouldn't, it's not their place to say something. So how can we get to that point where we can break past that and just be who we are?
Well, you don't have to be that way all the time. I mean, I'm not pig-headed in everything. I know when to give in to my wife. I know when I've been beaten. I know when I'm in a meeting and we're having healthy debate. That's just stupid if I keep pushing that, because that's not right. So you learn from it. And by the way, you don't have to do all these things all the time, right? I don't have to be the antagonist in every meeting. I don't have to be the person that's standing up. Help motivate other people to go do that, so you can get your organization to a different place. So find the role that fits you and fits you the best, and then play that position. And that's what the problem is. And especially, we got a lot of speakers that listen on podcast, we try to be all things to all people. Well, you can't do that.
No.
It's like I was walking by a strip mall the other day. There's a taxidermist. It says veterinarian. It was Johnson's Veterinarian and Taxidermy Service. Are you kidding me? The slogan should have been one way or the other. You'll get your dog back. You can't serve that kind of mentality of trying to be all things. Find the things that you do well. Find the things that you want to do or where you want to go, and then focus in on getting those things. But you don't have to do it for everything.
Yeah, that reminds. It's like here in Houston. There's a hair college. It's a barbershop. It's a hair college and wig shop. So basically, if you go in, if we screw up, you're still covered. So it's amazing.
You're still covered. I love that. I got to get that. That's funny.
Yeah, that's. But I think that they do try to be all things to all people, and they're afraid to push that boundary, especially in speaking. I see that a lot of the times because people are always are confused why I am like I am. Because I'm pretty straightforward and direct, and I don't really play a lot of the quote-unquote speaker-client games.
Games.
Yeah, I'm pretty direct with my clients. That's what they hire me for. And I'm not upset if they don't hire me.
Well, I think it makes your life a lot simpler and a lot easier. I know me, and I wouldn't want to be anybody else, right? It's hard enough being me. Why would I want to be anything else or do anything else other than me? So I'm comfortable in my skin. It took me a while, just like it takes most people. You mentioned about being scared. Are you kidding me? When I'm going to go, I got to speak to 10,000 people tomorrow, the day after this, the launch, and here I am speaking to 10,000 people. You don't think I'm going to go to the bathroom like 15 times before I got to get up there? I mean, that's the nature of it, and I've been doing this for years, and I speak to crowds of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, and I speak to crowds of 40 people. So that's just the nature of the business and the game. But I always find it interesting to watch a lot of these speakers, quite frankly. And you see like 12 topics they speak on. Give me a break. I mean, how can someone do that?
Yeah, that always throws me.
And then again, some people try to do it.
Well, that always throws me because I'll be on the forums, like on a Facebook group for the NSA, and someone will say, "I'm going to be speaking on this tomorrow. What do you think is a good example of this?" I'm like, "What? Why did they hire you? I don't understand how you got the gig."
Yeah, well, I always love it. You know me. I'm kind of a smart ass. But and most people watch me on Facebook every once in a while because I'll read these diatribes on things, and somebody will say something like that. Well, how does one be authentic in conveying their speeches or speak or topic? And I'm going like, be real, actually do it. I mean, or somebody said yesterday, the day before yesterday, I actually responded back. They said, how do you move from free speeches to getting paid? And so I just wrote charge,
Submit an invoice.
Exactly. Just make that decision. That's what you're going to do. And I'm not trying to be flippant, but the answer is pretty simple. Quite frankly, it's not complicated. Just start charging. Maybe start with $1 or a meal. Where they buy your meal. That's charging.
Yeah, go back to the barter system. It worked for hundreds of years. But one of the things I love.
Think bigger. Think bigger.
Well, one of the things I love about the book is that even though it's full of confidence, and I don't want to say that in a bad way, it's a good thing. You got a lot of confidence in this book, but there's also some humility. One of the things you talk about is admitting that you suck and asking for help.
Yeah.
Was there a situation where you did not ask for help and it came back and bit you?
Every day. Are you kidding me? Every day it happens. Come on. And for everybody, it's that way. I mean, and to think, look, I've been very successful, global business celebrity, host of my own TV show, host of my own national podcast, a couple bestsellers. This book's going to hit bestseller today. Those are the things that were, as you said, confidence, lots of confidence. I'm not afraid to talk about myself. I mean, some people will even criticize me about that. And they might even criticize Donald Trump for that. But you know what? It's not hubris if it's true. At the same time, there's lots of stumbling, and to think that those things don't go along with one another, you're crazy. It's like, who's the biggest strikeout kings in the world? The same guys that are the biggest home run kings in the world. Because they take more chances at more pitches, they fail more times, and that's what it's about. So it's about thinking big, acting bigger, and just being relentless in going for that every single time. Because you know what? More than often, you're going to do it better and faster and quicker and with greater intensity and at greater scale than the other people who don't. And you'll have the failures just as much. What's wrong with that? And that's, hopefully, I'm glad you saw that. You also saw that there's the humility coming out as part of that as well.
Right. And one of the things that you talked about that I was reading was about, people kind of use failure as a badge of honor. I call it the serial entrepreneur, because it's a guy who is not doing very well, who on his resume or a LinkedIn profile says, I'm a serial entrepreneur, which means he can't keep a business afloat as far as I'm concerned.
Well, he's a serial loser. You lose. That's what it is. It's losing. Failure is losing. Okay? I don't like to lose, but I played many games, and I do lose from time to time. But I don't want to wear that as my badge. I want to have a winning record, not a losing record. So you want to grab failure by the neck and choke it. And I get that you want to fail fast. You know what's better? Winning fast and winning bigger. And so that's what I'd rather have you focus on.
Yeah, and success usually breeds success. I think that's the best motivation, is actually succeeding, because I think a lot of people try things, and as soon as it doesn't work out, say, well, I'm done. And had it just worked out even a little bit, if they just made a little progress, all of a sudden they got that juice to go keep moving forward. And sometimes
exactly.
But then there's the people that would say, well, you can't, celebrate every single thing. I think that's a criticism of the younger generation, is that they have ribbons for participation, or the 10th place trophy, or like on Meet the Fockers when he had the wall of Gaylord. It was all loser. He's all 10th place ribbons, where you're kind of
exactly.
You're not actually moving forward. You're just participating, which is in itself a victory. But come on, at some point you have to celebrate the true success.
Those are table stakes. Yeah, see, and my point, my opinion is that's your attendance. That's your perfect attendance record. That's not your win-loss record. That's table stakes. That's what's expected of you in life, and you're expected to show up. You're expected to be a good sport. You're expected to participate and do the things and compete. Doesn't mean you're expected to win. Now, so you're going to win sometimes, you're going to lose sometimes, but you don't get a trophy for the things that are expected. That's the things you do for free. I don't get when I was growing up, I didn't get an allowance for doing the things that were expected, okay? I got an allowance for doing things that were over the things that were expected. And I think that's the way you should look at winning as well.
Well, when I played baseball, I played in the 80s, so we didn't get anything. Maybe you got ice cream, maybe, and that's only if you won sometimes. We didn't get a whole ceremony where everybody gets a trophy and everybody gets a participation in there, constantly selling stuff to try to raise money for these awards. It was really, hey, you tried your best, maybe good luck next year. And so, do you think that?
And when you did it wrong, and when you did it wrong, they yelled at you. So, like when I ran down the field and we were the offense and we punted the ball and I ran down and caught the punt when I was in junior high, that's not good. Okay, that's not good. And I got yelled at for that. I thought it was pretty good because I ran all the way down there and I caught the punt. How many kids can actually do that? Right? Now, I couldn't do that today because I'm too fat, I'm too big, and I'm way too slow. But back then, I was fast. I was like a racer. But I did it wrong, and I got yelled at.
Yeah, because it was a really good job by the punter that you screwed up. Because the punter's job is to keep that in the air, so you get down there and cover it.
I know it. He did a great job. I don't even know what his name was, but he did a great job. And I still remember the look. I can still to this day remember the look on my junior high coach's face, like, what the hell do you think you're doing?
You're killing me, Hayzlett. You're killing me. I can hear him already.
Yeah, it's exactly. It was Coach Hill. Coach Hill. I remember he looked at me like, boy, what the hell do you think you're doing?
There's something not right with the Hayzlett boy.
That's right.
Do you think that teaching failure and how to fail properly is important in any organization? Because I think it's missing a lot.
Yeah, I think you need to understand how to accept that when you fail, that because by the way, it's gonna happen again. Here's a test. It's going to happen again. So yeah, you need to learn how to deal with it and learn how to learn from it and how to get continuous improvement as a result of that. Because that's just the nature of it. You got a 50-50 shot typically on most things without doing most things. So yeah, you're probably gonna fail sometimes. So okay, great. So how do you do that better? That's the key thing you got to learn.
Well, the book is Think Big, Act Bigger, The Rewards of Being Relentless. It's out today. It's probably available everywhere and on Amazon. And where can they find you? Because you're all over the place. Tell them where they can find you on TV, on radio, on internet. Tell them all that good stuff.
Yep. Well, you can you mentioned the radio, so we're on CBSPlay.it. I've got a show called All Business, where we talk to Steve Forbes and Piers Morgan and General Wesley Clark and just about anybody you can think of in terms of high muckety mucks in business. So talking about how they win and how they lose and all things business. We have a television show on the C-Suite Network called C-Suite TV, and you can see me in Executive Perspectives on a weekly basis on that show. And then you can find us on the road, because I want to be on the road for about 90 days, pretty solid, doing about 110 speeches in the next 90 days, just talking about the book, Think Big, Act Bigger. And you can find us on the web at Hayzlett.com, HAYZLETT.com.
Well, when you come to Houston, you'll have to look me up, and we'll have dinner.
I'm in, man.
And of course, I'm thinking big, you're buying. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Cheers.
That's the show. Thanks to Jeffrey for coming on. You can find us on iTunes, where we're getting some good reviews. More are welcome, but thanks for the ones we've got. If you go to realitycheckpodcast.com, you can sign up for the weekly newsletter or download the app. It's available on iTunes, Google Play, and Kindle. Follow the show at realitycheckpod or email comments, questions, or guest suggestions to Craig at speakercraigprice.com. See you next week.
You're killing me, Hayzlett! You're killing me!